Lost my virginity before marriage and my parents want me to prove my virginity to them. What should I do? Come from an extremely religious family. In my culture, women should be virgins before they get married. So here's how I lost my virginity. To my cousin. My parents are super strict. I grew up hiding everything from my parents. When I was 14, this new girl came to my school and she basically corrupted me. I had never in my life before even kissed a boy or even looked at one. But she would take me to parties and this is where I started meeting a lot of boys. A boy asked me to be his girlfriend and I said yes. This is where I had my first kiss. The next summer, my parents took me to visit my uncles. This is where I saw my cousin. We were both exactly the same age, and as soon as we saw each other, we were pretty much attracted to each other. I know, it's really disgusting and messed up. I was 15 at the time. This meant I didn't know anything about anything. My cousin would flirt with me all the time while we were visiting, and it kind of became a game for us. Before I knew it, he got me alone in a room and decided to kiss me. And after this, we just started making out all the time when we were alone. Then he started touching me. Now, no, I did not give him permission, but we were both 15, and it was just understood that we wanted it. And then we did the dirty. Like all night. This was the first time I had ever done anything like that. At the time, I didn't think that I would ever have to then prove to my parents that I was a virgin years later. So after I lost my virginity with my cousin, everything went downhill. I started doing it with other boys. And I even started dating a boy behind my parents' back. My parents, like I said, are super strict. When I was 17, my dad decided to tell me that he had already offered my hand in marriage to somebody. So that meant I was promised to somebody I had never even met. The boy that I was promised to lived in a different country. So 4 months later, he came with his parents. And when I met him, I was in love. He was extremely good looking, super smart, and he liked me right away. We were both really compatible in every single way. But then I remembered that I wasn't a virgin. The first night we met them, my parents brought up the fact that I was a virgin. My fiance looked at me with the biggest smile on his face. Not me sitting there knowing that I had already done it with 7 guys. From here on, I had to pretend like I was the perfect little virgin. So I basically cut off all the guys I was doing it with. So after I lost my virginity to my cousin, I was screwed. My father promised my hand in marriage to a man who thought I was a virgin, and his parents celebrated the fact that I was a virgin. Anytime they came to dinner, we would always somehow end up talking about how I was a virgin. It was like the hot topic with my father and his dad. This is when the wheels started turning. I started thinking of ways to tell my family that I was no longer a virgin. And the only thing that I could come up with was telling them that I was R-worded. But that's obviously a horrible idea because then I would have to accuse somebody and it would just be bad. So I decided to just simply confess. I sat my parents down and I told them that I was no longer a virgin. But when they asked me with who, I could not tell them it was my cousin. Instead, I told them it was some random boy from school. That's when my father told me that I had to prove myself a virgin to get married. So I decided to go to a gynecologist and pay him to say that I was still intact. All he did was sign some piece of paper that said I was basically a virgin. So I gave it to my parents and they were happy with that. I had to pretend I was a virgin on my wedding night and this is what I did. I saved some period blood from my last period. Since my father had promised me to a man that I had never met who I did fall in love with, but I wasn't a virgin and was promised as a virgin, I had to do something. The wedding was absolutely beautiful. And my new husband and I were getting to know each other so well. So I knew that I did not want to disappoint him because he thought that I was a virgin. So when it came time to getting naked and actually doing it, I was already used to it. So I pretended like it hurt really bad when he put it in. Frozen my period blood in a Ziploc baggie, and I put it behind the bed underneath my pillow. So as soon as we finished, I had already scooped some blood into my hand and I just went ahead and rubbed it on. And it worked. He saw the blood, kissed me, and then we did it again. At this point, I just enjoyed it. No one will ever know this secret, and my husband thinks that I've only been his. So I guess it's a happy ending, right?
Storytime about when I messed up by inviting a girl over. This mess up started on Saturday and it's Thursday now. I matched with a girl on Facebook dating and she was very cute. I did notice that she only smiled with her top row of teeth in pictures and figured that her bottom teeth might be effed up, but didn't think much of it. She had trad wife energy and I was into it. We ended up meeting on Sunday after some pretty clean chatting. Turns out that she lives exactly 8 minutes from me, so I offered to pick her up for our first date. I learned a lot about her in a very short time. I won't reveal all the details, but she had battled a long time with eating disorders, thus her teeth being a bit janky. From what I saw, they weren't that bad. This is all a red herring. Nothing about this has to do anything with teeth. I wanted to mention it because I was so focused on that I didn't pick up on the other red flags. I also found out that she doesn't drink all that often and only at meal times if it's appropriate. How nice. She also lives with her parents. Why? She has a surgery coming up and is involving a lot of physical therapy. I pieced together that it's probably due to her aforementioned eating disorders and a complication thereof. Otherwise, great date. Fast forward to last night and this morning. I invite her over for dinner. The plan was her dad would drop her off because she doesn't have a car due to a recent wreck and I would drive her home later that evening. She also tells me that she's a felon like 1 hour before we hang out. Okay. Don't worry, it's just 3 DUIs and it's over with. Thanks for telling me? No, really, I should have paid attention to this red flag. She comes over and after pleasantries, I start to cook shrimp curry soup. She asks for a drink. I show her my drink cabinet and picks out the most expensive tequila that I have. That's fine. Biggest F up, I presume that everyone is good at self-regulation of their drinking. It's just what I believe. We know if we're getting toasted or not and it's intentional. I join and catch up with the 2 shots. I get a seltzer for myself and she grabs a cocktail. And another one. 4 drinks in 40 minutes for this 110-pound person. I assume she's good at holding her liquor. After dinner, we're cuddling where she has her head on my lap. Suddenly, to my surprise, she takes her pants off and says, "Let's go to bed. A woman has needs. Let me mention nothing sexual happened here." I was barely registering as tipsy and she was beyond drunk. I set her in the bed and she immediately passes out. No worries, I'll put a trash can near her and I'll go watch some TV and play games and check on her. The horror story starts here. I check on her and I realize that my bed is dark. I touch it. It's pee. Just fucking great. I attempt to wake her and alert her that she soiled herself and my bed. She wakes up and asks me why I'm waking her up and then tries to flirt with me. I then notice she's soiling herself. Again. Actively, while trying to seduce me. I somehow managed to get her to the bathroom and sit her on the toilet and have her drink water to sober up. This was a bad plan later. She refuses to use the toilet and I ease her down on the ground on my fuzzy bath mat. I drape her with a towel and place another beneath her, just in case. I then spend the next 5 hours until 4:30 in the morning washing my clothes, her clothes, my bedding, and my comforter. At some point, I sit on the couch where she was earlier and realize that she had soiled my couch. That's why she was so urgent to go to the bed. I check on her to make sure that she's okay and I end up changing her towel twice. I finally decide to go to sleep around 5 and I have work at 9, despite the ice storm. I set an alarm at 8 so I can drive her the hell home and forget it all happened. At 6:30, she wakes up, confused and naked, to which I provide her some of my gym clothes that I don't really care about. I go back to the couch and she's embarrassed and hungry. Fine, go eat leftovers, but let me sleep. She clings around in the kitchen a while. She apparently ate all the shrimp in the soup. Great. She decides to cuddle with me on the couch and I had no energy to push her away. She attempts to kiss me, but I rebuke it, and then realize that she has gin on her breath. I spring up and go to the kitchen and realize that she drank another 4 ounces of gin at 7:30 in the morning. I run back to the bed and she's catatonic again. I start to freak out and see her phone. She told me her birthday on the first date and used that to open her phone. Voila. Turns out she has like 9 missed calls from her parents, so I call them from her phone. I explain every single detail of the happenings of the night and they're mortified. I tell them that I have work and they need to come get her now. An hour later, her father shows up, which is ridiculous because he lives so close, but I was just happy that he was there. I had gathered her laundry, belongings, etc. to give it to her dad. Her dad is not happy. He yells at her and I tell him, "Hey, sorry, my house, please, no yelling." He apologizes and agrees, surprised that it actually worked, but I guess he was embarrassed about everything. Dad takes his stuff and comes back and says, "She was almost 1 week sober, and this happens. Not your fault, son." The DUI thing makes sense now. She cannot stand up by herself, so he tries to scoop her up from the couch, but she's completely dead weight and wakes up, yelling that she hates her dad, and pees on him, and my couch. Again, we both end up dragging her to the car and my neighbors are watching, mortified of what seems like a kidnapping happening. Her mom just texted me to apologize a few hours later and that she would get me my clothes back. I'm really just upset that I'm sitting here eating my shrimpless soup.
There are things that happened in my relationships that I thought were normal but were actually really fucking weird. After the second date with my ex, he made me talk to his stuffed animals. And he was 32 years old, and I had to talk to these dumb fucking stuffed animals. But I was like, oh my god, no, it's cute. Like, he's just like a sensitive guy. Like, I just have to talk to these. Like, why did I justify that? That's fucking weird that I was talking to stuffed animals. I was trying to break up with my ex because he cheated on me. He would make me watch church on his laptop and would, like, relate everything back to the pastor being like, oh, we should stay together because like the pastor said this, like that's what I'm getting from this message. And I'm like, I'm really not getting that. He's like, no, you're not like understanding the message deep enough. Like pastor wants us to stay together. And I like believed him and I was like, you're right. Like God wants us to stay together. What the fuck? My ex used to block me in the midst of our relationships and he would blame it on the fact that he was scared his grandma was gonna die. Grandma was perfectly fine. Nothing was wrong with her. She wasn't sick. He was just scared that one day she was gonna die. So he blocked. It made no fucking sense. Like it makes no fucking sense. He just like hit me with that block after we had like a date night. I'd be like, well, he's probably scared about his grandma dying again. Like, what the fuck did I have to do with that? This was like the most fucked up. I'd get home from like a long day. I'd shower, do my skincare. I'd walk into my bedroom and my ex would just be there. Like, what are you doing here? Like, I didn't invite you over. And he was like, yeah, like I snuck in. I just wanted to see if you were ever cheating on me. Like, how long have you been here? And he was like, well, I saw you shower and everything. And I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? At the time, I was like, oh my God, babe, like that's so sweet. We like get to spend the night together. It's like, no, bitch, he was fucking stalking you. Like, he is a stalker. Every single time I'd be in the elevator with my ex because we lived in the same dorm building, we'd get out of the elevator and he'd be like, oh, I fucked those girls in there. We weren't dating at the time he fucked them, but he literally fucked the entire school. So walking down the halls with him, I was walking with like fucking walking chlamydia at that point. I was like, you fucked everybody. And every time I'd be like, that's honestly disgusting. Like, you're pathetic. And he was like, you know that was before I found God. Like, why are you being rude? Like the dumb bitch I am, I'd be like, yeah, babe, you're right. Babe, you're right. You're right. That's my fault. I'm so fucking sorry. Like, just don't tell me who these bitches are. Like, I don't want to know this. He was like, well, I want you to know. And I was like, why? Why? One ex was like always playing tennis at like the weirdest weirdest fucking hours. It'd be like 9:30 on a Sunday. I'm like, why haven't I heard from you? He's like, I've been playing tennis all day. I was like, you've been playing tennis for 12 fucking hours? Like, who the fuck do you think you are? Serena Williams? Like, she's not even practicing that much. He was definitely just like cheating. Like, who plays tennis that fucking much? My one ex had like 0 friends, and I would go through his phone and I would look at like Instagram and Twitter, and he'd be DMing all these bitches, and I was like, why are you DMing all of these girls? And he was like, I'm just trying to make friends. I'm like, these are not the type of friends you're gonna be fucking making it for together. He would be like, you're so crazy. Like, they're just girls. Like, I just want to be friends. I'm like, these girls are OnlyFans models. Like, they're not looking for friendship with you. Like, you're trying to fuck them. You're not trying to be friends with them. And he'd be like, God, you always think the worst of me. And I'm like, because you're weird. My ex refused to take photos with me, and he would be like, I'm just camera shy. I'm so camera shy. And I'd be like, well, why do you take pictures with all your friends like on your Instagram? And he was like, it's different. Like, can you respect my boundaries? Let's say I was like taking a picture of like a plant or something. He would scream at me like, no fucking pictures. Like, I told you I don't like pictures. I'm like, I'm literally taking a photo of this hydrangea. Can you fuck off? He would like sprint away if someone was like, let me get a photo of you two. He's like, absolutely not. And I'd be like, actually so fucking sad looking back. Like, why did I think he was actually camera shy? He was just a whore. And he just like did not want his other girlfriends to know that he had like another girlfriend. My ex told me he owned the building that he lived in and that he would Airbnb it out. There'd always be fucking strangers in there, but he also had like no permanent things in his house either. So I realized that he was just living in an Airbnb. He just like weirdly lied and was like, no, like I own it. And he didn't. And there was always a random fucking stranger there. And like, why did I not think that was weird? My ex would like rank my friends from which ones he thought were like the prettiest to the ugliest, but like nobody asked him. I'd be like, how the fuck did we get on this convo? Like, what are you doing? And he'd be like, shut up. Like, I thought you wanted to know this. I'm like, no, what? My ex would threaten to cheat on me every time he got mad at me. He'd be like, I'm going to take a shower, and I thought about cheating on you the whole time, and I might go do it. It happened every time he was mad. He was like, I'm gonna go cheat on you because you made me upset. I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Those are weird things my exes did that I did not see as red flags because I was in my dumb bitch fucking era, and it's embarrassing to even admit this, but like, hope you laughed a little.
All the abuse and trauma your mom put you through as a child, did she ever apologize? Did you guys ever work through it? Did she ever get sober? So as y'all know, my mom struggled with drugs and alcohol my whole life. I never knew another version of my mom. She's always struggled. And she made me her best friend, so my role was always to take care of her, my brother, and try to be her best friend. And it created a lot of abuse between us, a lot of trauma, and basically led to her attacking me for some drug money and her going off to jail before I went off to college. And that's the last time I lived with her, basically. Ever tried to live with her truly again. I got some story times on here about that. In college, I'm like, okay, when she gets out of jail, we're gonna have a conversation about this. We're gonna have a conversation about everything she put me through as a child. Everything, up until I graduated. I go home for one break, she ain't having it. She's not talking to me about it. She don't want it crosses her shame and embarrassment. And she was always in recovery, y'all. So I never wanted to trigger her more. I didn't want to like trigger her and then dip. So I was like, okay, when I graduate from college, when I'm like an adult, I'm going to sit her down and we're going to talk it out. And I'm going to finally work through the trauma that I've created within myself because I have my own cycles of trauma that I was dealing with post that. Like, I didn't heal from that. I developed an eating disorder. I could not keep positive relationships because I just like create the same cycles my mom put me through, but without drugs and alcohol. I never touched drugs and alcohol, but I would create the same cycle, same drama. So I was like, when I graduate, I'm going to finally get over everything, all my trauma behind me. I'm going to put it behind me. And I believe that. I truly believe that. So by the time I turned 21, 22, my mom and I were always talking. She called me all the time for life advice. I'd be giving her advice about partners, about renting. I was still her best friend. So she called me one day and said, Andrew, I got to go in for a surgery. I got some fluid behind my lungs, and I can't sleep at night. And I was like, okay. She's like, it's a simple procedure, but she's like, I'm nervous about it. I'm like, girl, get your little procedure so you can go to bed at night, okay? So she goes in. I go to work. I got my first job post-college at a bank. And I'm sitting there working, and my phone's blowing up. My brother's calling me, and I'm like, boy, I'm at work. So I don't pick it up. I finally go take my little lunch break. He calls me again, and I'm like, Mike, what's going on? And he's like, you need to get to Green Bay right now. Right now. And I was like, Michael, what's going on? And he's like, listen, Mom is not waking up. She had her fluid removed from her surgery, but her liver shut down during the surgery, and she's not waking up. And I'm trying to keep it together because I'm only going to tell the story one time. And I couldn't acknowledge it. I couldn't fathom, because she's still my best friend, and I didn't know what to do, so I continued to go to work. It is okay to cry. Yes, I cried, but that is my mom. I'm human. I worked through a lot of this. This is many, many years ago to me, but it's still my mom. I'm still gonna get emotional about it, so I'm gonna finish the story. Don't be too worried about me, y'all. I promise I'm okay. But like I said, my brother got off the phone with me and said my mom was not waking up at the hospital. And I just blacked out, y'all. I went back to work, did my whole shift. My dad calls me again. My dad's just like, where are you? And then it hit me. That was in panic mode. I'm like, I need to get to Green Bay now. Kyle's little boyfriend got his little stuff together and drove me to Green Bay. And while I'm there, the doctors are talking to me. Everyone's talking to me. I'm like, why is everyone talking to me? Why is everyone coming to me? I'm 22 years old. I don't know. Like, what's happening with my mom? Where's the adult? And like, you're the adult. And I was like, again? Because no one told me that if your parent is homeless, my mom has been homeless and struggled with her drug and alcohol addiction her whole life, that the eldest of kin is responsible for the adult, for your parent. So I'm signing off on all the medical decisions. And I'm feeling so overwhelmed because no one's really explaining to me, like, what has happened. And the doctor finally sits me down and says, the procedure was simple, but her liver shut down because of the alcohol and drug abuse that she's been through, and all the physical abuse that she's been through. And I was like, okay, and I'm trying to make the most of the situation because she's not gone. She's still there. Her liver's not pumping clean blood to her head, so she's not saying, like, words all the time. Like, sometimes it's like, there's like a word, but nothing's like coming out in full sentences. And then all of a sudden she'll like come to and be like, on. And she like woke up and she looked at me at one point and she was like, I think she knew where she was. And she's like, Andrew, get me out of here. And I was like, Mom, I can't. And she was like, I want to go home. And I know I've come out here and shared some of the roughest moments of my life with y'all. But seeing my mom like that, it was hard because I wanted to get her out of there. I wanted to do everything she asked me to. She's still my best friend. She's still my mom. But I said, Mom, you gotta be here. And then she would just kind of go blank again. And I had a job lined up back in Minneapolis. So I told the doctor and the family that I would be back that weekend. I was gonna go do this training. I needed this job because I was about to be homeless. I was like, I'm just gonna go for this training and I'll be right back. Of course, I get to Minneapolis. Within 24 hours, the doctor's calling me. He's like, I don't think she's gonna make it through the weekend. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be right back. Me and my boyfriend at the time, who I made a video about on here, we're gonna get on the overnight bus. We're gonna get right back there. And it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm about to buy the ticket to be on the bus by midnight. And my brother calls me and he's like, Andrew, I'm in the room and she's gone. And it looked like she was smiling. And y'all, when I said it felt like the weight of the world left my shoulders and just got put on my chest, that's what it felt like. I could not breathe. I could not breathe, and I could not control my crying. I could not control anything. I felt like I was crying for years. It just felt like I felt there should be no more water left in my body, but it just kept coming out. And I would get mad. I would be like mad at my partner, mad at people in the streets. Like, I couldn't look at the mirror. If I looked in a mirror, because I look like my mom, y'all, like, I can't deny that. When I look at myself, I see her. I look at my hands, I see her hands. When people laugh at me, I'm like, you actually laughing at Miss Deborah Jean, because I ain't nothing but a copy and paste. Like, everything that I have is from her. Everything that I am. Keep saying I'm not gonna cry, but everything that I am is because of her. I am nothing without my mom. I thought she is everything to me. She's a god. She is my arch nemesis. She's my best friend. She's my everything. And I love her, and I miss her every day. And all the trauma that I had placed behind me that I thought would be healed, once we had this conversation, I had planned all of this, that I was going to be an adult and we were going to talk it through, and she was going to be sober and we would have a beautiful life, and I would have grandkids and she was going to be a great grandma. And that never happened. It will never happen. So, I think a year and a half, almost 2 years went by, and I was laying in bed still emotional about it. I made a video on it. I got a tattoo in honor of her. And I looked in the mirror because I was struggling with an eating disorder and a lot of depression, and I was still struggling with my partners and relationships. And I was like 100 pounds, 90 pounds in the mirror, and I was like, no one is coming to fix this situation for you, Andrew. Miss Deborah Jean's not coming back to have this conversation that you thought was going to happen. You have to do it yourself. You have to do it yourself. So I sat myself down and I just said, you have to work on yourself. You have to work on yourself. I ate an apple. I was like, okay, we ate an apple today. We ate some ramen today. We ate a bigger meal today. Next thing you know, I'm gaining weight and I'm feeling good about it. I'm loving myself. I'm sticking to my friendships. I'm calling my friends. I'm making plans with them. I'm loving myself. And I'm working on myself. And every day I go, you know what? I might not be able to have those memories or those future plans, those future conversations with Miss Deborah Jean. But what I can do is honor her every day by being the best version of myself, loving people as wholeheartedly as I can, and just being her little son, the son that she knew I was destined to be.
I discovered a horrifying secret about my girlfriend. Last month I moved in with her, which was her idea, and ever since I've been getting nightmares, sleep paralysis even. I thought it was because of moving in the new place. She inherited the house from her parents, which needed a lot of renovation. Also, she made me agree not to enter some of the rooms, out of respect to her dead parents. One room in particular had for locks on the outside. I tried to joke around and ask her if she had prisoners inside, but she gave me a dead look and ignored the question. I felt like I was being rude, so I moved on. Things started to get weird. When I would wake up in the middle of the night and not find her next to me, the next part might gross you out. But one time I was brushing my teeth, and she was next to me, half all sleep and blood all over her teeth. When I asked her what's wrong, she said she just has gum issues. When I told my friends about it, they said I was exaggerating. But then one day I decided to enter one of the rooms. That's when I called the cops. After my girlfriend left the house, I entered one of the forbidden rooms. I was scared at first, not knowing what I'll find, but it was filled with books and weird plants. I quickly left that room and went to the other one. I had to use a bobby pin to open the lock, and the minute I opened that door, I was hit with a smell. It was a rotten egg smell. The room was pitch black. I couldn't see. I took out my phone to use the flashlight, and I froze in my place. After what I saw, I immediately dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I'd like to report a crime. As I was giving them the details and the address, I suddenly felt the main door shut, and I knew she must have been back. I was scared and told them to send officers quickly. I hid and waited for the officers to come in. As she was wandering around the house calling my name, she called my phone, and that's when I knew my hiding spot was exposed. She walked into the room that was pitch black, but she knew where I was, because I could suddenly feel her standing on top of me. I could almost feel her heavy breathing. She asked me if I did something stupid. Before I could speak, I was knocked out. When I opened my eyes, I saw red lights flashing. My head felt so heavy, and all I could hear was mumbles. Then suddenly I heard, "He's awake if you want to question him." I was regaining my consciousness, and I could see clearly now. "Sir, do you remember what happened?" "Not really." Then they proceeded to tell me that she was nowhere to be found, and that this house was abandoned by the owner. Also, her name is fake and she wasn't on the records. They took me to the hospital to get treated for my injury. Sometime later, an officer enters my room and tells me that the house had no signs that anyone lived there but me, and that the injury I received was due to me banging my head on the wall. The doctor then said that I have a rare condition, and I was having extreme delusion, and that none of this story happened. It was all me playing it out. I was admitted to a mental hospital for a while. They also got me on the right medications, and I see a therapist once a month now. This was all due to the death of my parents, and trapping my emotions caused me so much stress that it triggered a rare condition and caused me to help live a fake life for almost 6 months.
My wife is dead. The best Christmas gift I could have gotten. At the beginning of 2022, I caught my wife having an affair with one of her exes. Our marriage wasn't perfect. I was not the perfect husband, I will admit, but I did my best. I put effort into the entire 5 years we were together. I put my all into the relationship. Her, I could not say the same. I was forced to confront the reality of who she truly was shortly after I caught her. She illegally evicted me from our shared home, lied to the police to try and get me arrested, tried to get me fired from my job, and tried to turn all of my friends against me. Some of these succeeded, while others did not. She made my life a living hell since the day I asked her for the divorce, and has planted her heels into the ground over our separation to try and drain all of my finances and emotional strength from me. The only upside is that we have no kids for her to use as weapons, but I soon found out that her policy of strict birth control with me did not extend to her suitor as he got her pregnant 5 months ago. I thought maybe this would help speed along the divorce, but it only railed her in efforts to destroy me. On Christmas Eve, my wife and her suitor went to a party where both of them got drunk. I find this fact terrible as all of her friends knew she was pregnant as well. Her suitor drove them home, a mistake that would cost them both their lives. In the state I live in, our divorce is now considered to never have even started. I will be able to claim her life insurance policy for myself and move back into my home. Her parents called me up distraught yesterday, acting as if the last year had never happened and offered their full support to my funeral preparations for her. My confusion here was beyond belief, but the apple does not fall far from the tree when it comes to my wife. I told them if they want a funeral, it was coming out of their pockets. I will pay for her to be cremated and deliver her ashes to them in the cheapest urn offered if they desired. They called me horrible and tried to guilt me about her life insurance, but only after 4 minutes on the phone with them, I hung up and blocked every one of her family members. I'm going to be taking a few extra days off work to move back into my house over the next week. I've already made arrangements to have her stuff hauled off so my home will be an empty canvas to start my life anew. I don't know if there is a God or this was just karma, but I truly believe now that I have come out on the other side of the storm. Am I wrong for showing up to my husband's doctor appointment? My husband has been dealing with some health issues the past few weeks and has been frequently visiting the doctor. I asked if I could go with him, but he refused, saying it wouldn't be necessary, and when I asked why he wouldn't want me with him, he said he felt more comfortable having privacy with his doctor. I jokingly asked if the doctor was a woman, and he glared at me. I anticipated his next doctor appointment and decided to go meet him there. He went, and 10 minutes later, I entered the office. I identified myself as his wife, and he was shocked when he saw me. I greeted his doctor, a man, LOL, and we talked, but my husband refused to even look my way and refused to speak to me as well. We left the office together, and he went off on me in the car, saying I shouldn't have followed him and came into the doctor office after he asked me for some privacy. I said it was all right, I'm his wife, I already even know what his issues are and just wanted to show support. He said I overstepped his one boundary and refused to respect his wish and made him more stressed than he already is in these hard times he's going through. I thought he overreacted, but am I the asshole?